Hey, want to know what I eat in a day? Let's find out. Hallo allesamen, welkom till kanalen min. Welcome to my channel. This is Mark, and today, before I get into the topic at hand, last night while I was getting ready for bed, I was reading out of this book, Short Stories in Norwegian by Olly. Really great guy, by the way. I could actually read the second chapter of this book, understand what was going on in the chapter. It was bizarre. I mean, I've been studying Norwegian for about 6 weeks now, and the fact that I could actually understand a book, I mean, these are beginner stories, but still, I was really happy. I mean, it went a long way to kind of boosting my confidence that I'm actually making progress in the language, and it was just really cool. Now, I can't understand every single word, but I can understand enough of this to get the gist of what was going on, engaged in the story. And Krashen talks a lot about how being engaged in a story and having comprehensible input that engages you and gets you excited and makes you want to turn the page, that's really important. So kudos to this book for helping me with that. So my microphone ran out of battery, so I had to go recharge it, so I'm back. Today what I'm going to talk about is what I generally eat in a given day. Specifically today, what I'm eating, and it changes, you know, from month to month. I'll kind of go through phases of eating different types of things. Generally, I find something I like and I kind of stick with it for a while until I get tired of it, and then I'll switch to something else. So the general idea is I try and get as much vegetables as I can, ideally, and so a lot of that takes the place of salads, fresh greens, things like that. Not always the case, but as much as I can, I try to do that. So I took some video of me today getting ready and eating things, and so I wanted to share that with you. So the first thing I do when I wake up is I get a cup of water. We have a little Brita water filter pitcher, and I use that and just to have a glass of water first thing in the morning, just to kind of hydrate my body after a whole night of being asleep. Now, generally I don't eat breakfast because I'm not really hungry in the morning. I think this came from before when I was sick. I practiced intermittent fasting, which is, you know, curtailing your eating until a little bit later in the day, and that worked really well for me. And I've never been really a big breakfast person ever, and so this worked really well for me naturally. I didn't have a need to eat breakfast. Generally, I'll eat sometime between 11 or 3 p.m. So 11 a.m. is the earliest I usually will eat something. 3 p.m. is the latest. Sometimes it usually ends up being around 1 o'clock or so. Usually after that water, I'll have a cup of coffee or maybe a cup of tea, usually coffee. Organic, ideally. We subscribe to something called Trade Coffee, which gives you a coffee delivery service from really good roasters. And we use an AeroPress. And there's two different methods I use to make my coffee. I'll either do the immersion technique where you kind of let the coffee sit in the hot water for a while to bloom, and then you filter it out, which is the method I'm using in the video, or just the standard AeroPress pour over drip kind of method. That tends to be a little more watered down coffee. I like my coffee stronger, so I'll use the immersion technique. So that coffee is typically around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. After that, I'll drink some water. Usually I like to have mineral or seltzer water. I like Voss a lot, which is a Norwegian brand, but that's really expensive. So usually we'll have a local brand called Maikai from Foodland, which is a grocery store here in Hawaii. And I'll have that, maybe a can of that earlier in the day, just to keep myself hydrated. What I try to do ideally is about a half an hour to an hour before I eat. Right when I start to get hungry, I'll have a cup of bone broth. If I haven't made the bone broth myself using chicken bones or meat bones or something, meat bones, obviously meat bones. Bones don't come from vegetables, Mark. I will also use these bone broths that come from Costco. They're really good farm-raised chickens that are free of antibiotics, so it's a really good quality of bone broth. I might put some pink Himalayan sea salt in there, maybe a little cayenne pepper for some detox effects. There's a lot of videos on why bone broth is a really good thing to have first before you eat. I'm not going to cover that now. Check out DeLauer's channel, which I will link to there. Also Dr. Berg, Dr. Axe, there's a bajillion of them out there. So just Google bone broth, break fast, and you'll find it. So after that initial bone broth, about half an hour later, I'll have my first meal of the day. And that's usually these days a tortilla that's wrapped around some rotisserie chicken, a little bit of cheese, just a little bit of sour cream and salsa, and I'll just pack it full of a salad mix. We alternate between a spring mix from Costco, which is organic greens, or we'll do a local farm box delivery of some greens. Also put some sprouts in there just for some added benefit. Generally, I just try to pack a whole salad's worth of greens into a tortilla. I know a tortilla isn't really the best, like, no low carb sort of keto option, but to me, the tortilla is a salad delivery device. And I don't mind eating salads, but to me, it's kind of a pain to use a fork to get all the greens. It's a lot of work. I'd rather just have it in a wrap and get it in my face as quickly as possible. This is the process by which I make my first meal a day, and sometimes I'll have something with it, maybe some chicharrones, some pork rinds for some protein, or some almonds, or I might do some sweet potato chips. We have ulu chips as well right now. So it really depends on what I'm feeling like or what we're trying to work through in our kitchen. Usually with that, I'll have some water. I don't really drink soda or juice or anything like that. Typically, I'll just have coffee in the morning, bone broth before my first meal, and water the rest of the day. And that's generally all I drink. I might snack during the day, anything like almonds or celery sticks sometimes, or like the ulu chips or those things that I've mentioned before. Maybe a little popcorn, you know, whatever, kind of something to munch on. It's not really the best. I shouldn't be snacking, and it's not good for me. What can I say? I like snacking sometimes. So I'll have a handful of almonds maybe, or something like that. And then for my last meal of the day, dinner time, if I'm feeling like it, I'll cook something. Maybe I'll do some Instapot chicken with some brown rice and steamed broccoli. I do that a lot because it's pretty easy. Or I'll do a one-pot dish. I made some chili the other night. Or I'll do some ground meat with something or other. So it really depends on the day and what we're feeling. Yesterday, Ruhi made some soup, and we had little keto mug bread with some cream cheese on it. That was really good. So it really depends on the day and what we're feeling. But generally, we'll have some sort of one pot type of thing in the evening. Often recently, I've been sort of snacking a little bit after that before I go to bed. So my last meal generally is sometime between 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, somewhere in that range. Depends on when I have my first meal. I'll have one kind of main meal in the early afternoon, and I'll have one main meal later in the evening, and maybe a few snacks here and there around that. Ideally, I shouldn't snack. I should just have that one meal and then another meal about 4 hours later. That's my ideal. But I haven't been doing that as much recently, so it is what it is. Once in a while, we'll treat ourselves, especially during the pandemic. We're trying to, help out local businesses. So we'll order something from a local restaurant. We had Thai food the other day. Maybe once a week we'll do that. We went to Peace Cafe, which is a vegan restaurant, because we got a gift certificate for it, so that was great. But it really depends on what we're feeling. Just a great way to support local business, and it's also just one meal a day of eating out or getting delivery. Before the pandemic, I would eat out much more often, so this is actually very healthy in comparison to what was going on before. And I think a lot of us are feeling that. The fact that we're at home so much, we're cooking at home a lot more, we're probably eating a lot healthier than we were before, which is great. I mean, I guess that's the silver lining of this pandemic, is we're forcing ourselves to get back to sort of basics with our nutrition. So for the most part, I eat pretty clean. Basically a big salad earlier, and then some general, like, well portioned out carb protein fat ratio thing later in the day. A couple snacks here and there, but pretty clean snacks. I don't really eat like pizza rolls or donuts or anything like that. So I think overall we're doing pretty well. In the evening, I'll usually take my supplements, like some multivitamins, B vitamins. Some people say vitamins don't help you. Some people say they do, but I figure they can't hurt. So I'm going to take some vitamins. And that's essentially it. Now, I would like to sort of transition into being a little more careful with my nutrition and doing a lot more vegetables than I am now. For the most part, I think this is a good intermediate step. It's not super unhealthy like I was doing for a while, and it's not super healthy like I was doing way back in the day, which is hard to maintain. So I think this is a good mix. It has some intermittent fasting in there. It has some good practices with breaking the fast and getting my greens in. Overall is a good approach, and I find my digestion is pretty good with this approach as well. One thing I've been doing recently is there's this keto cereal that I found, and I take it with some pumpkin seed and flaxseed granola, and I'll put that with some almond milk in it, and it's like a cereal. It's actually really good. That might be like my mid-afternoon snack, a bowl of that. It's actually fairly grain-free, but it tastes just the same, so that's a great option as well. And we've been doing some yogurt with granola and fruit. Sometimes we'll make a smoothie. We have bananas. Like I said, we get a farm delivery, so we might get some blueberries or bananas and blend that all in with some protein powder. But we only do that a few times a week, so it isn't a constant thing, just once in a while. But basically, that's it. That's what I eat in a day. It's not rocket science. It's not crazy. It's not too much and it's not too little. I feel pretty satisfied, especially with all the greens. My body doesn't feel like I'm lacking nutrients in anything, which is really great. So I'll probably keep this system up for a while. I might switch to a lower carb tortilla, but I get the biggest tortilla I can find so I can put as much greens in it as I can. I've tried it with smaller tortillas in the past, like the 10-inch or the 8-inch. Those don't work so great. So I try and get bigger tortillas, like burrito tortillas, and just pack them full of vegetables. If you have any questions or thoughts, please put them down below. It's funny, every time I mention nutrition stuff or what I'm eating, I'll usually get a lot of people saying things about, well, have you tried this? Or what about this? Or I read about this. And that's all great. So if you want to let me know, but I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing right now. So I probably won't change it too much in the future. I just wanted to share what I'm eating now in context of the video I made yesterday about my health and nutrition and inflammation and all that stuff. Hope that was interesting or helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, again, leave them below. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Bye.